On Sundays, Max sleeps in while the rest of us go to church. He's not Catholic, and he works such long hours that I wouldn't force him to come with us anyway. But he can't rest for long. He's always up and has lunch ready for when we return. Today, even George goes to church without grumbling, which makes me suspicious. Priest asks for prayers for the president, our allies, and the boys soon to be serving overseas, and I pray harder than I've prayed in years, for Mr. Roosevelt and all those boys, but especially for my sons. Dr. Max's corned beef sandwiches are gone, and Mama has taken Grace to Wanamaker's to listen to the organ concert. I can wrap presents without interruption. Peggy and I spread out on the dining room table, stacking gifts on the chairs and setting up with a roll of paper at either end. Are you really thinking about changing jobs? I think about a lot of things, she says with a sigh. I feel like I'm wasting my life, Pearl. The boys don't need me now that our dad's come back. The search for work carried him off years ago, and Peggy and her brothers moved in with relatives. Having to support the boys meant she couldn't go to college, though she was the smartest of us. Even after her father returned, he made no mention of what she'd given up, nor suggested that she go now. The boys will always need you. No matter how much their aunt had done for them, Peggy was the closest they'd had to a mother. Tim's not much older than Grace. It's not the same, though. Not living with them means they forget. She shakes her head. I'm glad he came home, of course, but sometimes it makes me angry that he just waltzed back in, as if he hadn't been gone for 6 years and left me to deal with how much they missed Mem. And how much you missed her. Not to mention the worry that he would never come home, which had plagued her all through high school. You had to grow up quickly. No quicker than you. Her smile returns. I don't want to think about that anymore. If I give in to anger, I'll have to do penance for it. I would rather do penance for justifiable anger than allow myself to be my family's doormat. Not that I haven't spent many hours of my life helping my mother and siblings, but I've never felt abandoned to the task. I'm angry on Peggy's behalf, but give in and change the subject. What would you like to do? I roll the holly paper across the table and plonk the box containing Grace's roller skates in the center. If you had the chance. She sticks cellophane tape on the last of several small packages intended for her brothers and tilts her head to one side, considering the question. Once the men start leaving, there'll be a ton of jobs. Plus there'll be war work, factory work. None of it will be glamorous, but it will pay well. Is that what you want? I ask. To work in a factory? Peggy looks down at the table. I don't want to marry a soldier, and I'm not ready for kids of my own anyway. I'm beginning to think it's either factory work or the convent. Voices reach me from behind the closed door of Harry's office. I stop to listen. My husband and another male. He sounds young. He sounds like one of my nephews, but none of Ava's boys have ever come to see Harry on their own. I go to my sitting room and keep an ear cocked for the closing of the front door. Then, after a few minutes, make my way to the office. Would you like a cup of tea? He glances up from the papers on his desk. Yes, that was George Kimber. You could just ask. I didn't want to pry, I say, and I also thought you might want a cup of tea. I would, actually. He stretches and says, why don't we have it in the living room? I've been sitting in one place for too long. I let Cece know and take my accustomed seat next to him on the sofa. So, if I'm allowed to pry, what did George want? He looks at me over his glasses. Although his hair is now entirely gray, when he looks at me like that, I'm reminded of the man I met when I was 17. I lean gently against his shoulder. He wanted to know if I could help him get into the Navy. I hope you said no. Ava would kill the both of you. He just wants to serve his country. No, he just wants to do what his brother is doing. Harry raises a shoulder. Which is serving his country. I don't think George is wrong, Claire. But I did say that I wouldn't help him without his mother's permission. Oh, thank goodness. Ava is fierce when crossed, and having lost one son to the service already, she wants to keep the other at home for as long as possible. Cece comes in with the tea tray. I'll pour, I say. Thank you. I deal with the cups, cream and sugar for me, just cream for Harry, and say Ava's afraid he's going to run away. I wouldn't be shocked. I told him to be patient. Max has already spoken to him. Apparently they've promised to let him join up after he graduates in June. Isn't that enough? I hate the thought of my nephews going to war. The only thing worse would be if Teddy went. But thankfully my son is not quite 10, and the war will be over long before he's old enough to make such threats on his own. You know how boys are. Harry's voice is patient. He's not going to let go of it. I smile at him over the rim of my cup. And you know my sister. She's not going to let go of it either. When Aunt Claire opens the door and sees me with Grace, her lips twitch, as if she knows a joke we aren't in on. Is Teddy home? Grace demands. I want him. Upstairs, Aunt says, stepping back so my little sister can fling herself headlong up the steps. Are you dropping her off, Pearl, or would you like to come in? I'll come in. I look around the gracious hall, with its pale colors, pretty ornaments, and French paintings. Is that new? No, I found it in New York a few years ago. She watches, bemused, as I move so close to the painting that its careful brushstrokes dissolve into smears, which is what Mama says Impressionist paintings look like to begin with. It's been in my dressing room, but I thought the light would be better down here. It's lovely. I want to fall into its lucent colors and forget the fear and worry of the last weeks. Is Uncle around? In his office. Again, her lips twitch. Should I bring tea in a few minutes? I'm not disturbing him? He's not usually in his office on Sundays, unless it's to escape Teddy being noisy with his friends. Not at all. Go on in. Uncle Harry is on the telephone, but breaks into a smile at the sight of me. I'll be done in a minute, he mouths, and waves me toward a chair. I go to the window instead, looking out on the quiet brick sidewalk, not really listening as he arranges a meeting for Tuesday and talks about how quickly a factory can be converted to manufacture war material. I'm not sure why I've come, other than that Uncle Harry has always been good at talking plain common sense when I've gotten myself into a state, which is exactly what I've done, spending time thinking about my future when we don't even know right now what the future will bring. While I want to be a writer, I can't just sit down and do that after graduation. It will either happen or it won't. I'll have to make it happen while doing something else. Finally! He places the receiver in the cradle and turns his focus to me. Pearl, sit. Tell me what's on your mind. Before I do, I lean over to kiss his cheek. His Karen cologne, with its hint of lavender, mingles pleasantly with the open box of cigarettes on his desk. You're not smoking? I ask. Aunt will have your hide. I'm not. His expression is rueful. After all this time, I still miss them, though. The smell is comforting. Claire has her little dishes of dried flowers, and I have these. It doesn't comfort me that he needs something to make him relax. Uncle Harry is one of those men in charge of the world. He even knows the president. If he's worried, what hope is there for the rest of us? Is it really so bad? Well, he hesitates as he decides how much truth I can cope with. It will get worse before it gets better, I can tell you that much. A soft knock, and Aunt Claire enters with the tea. 2 cups, she says briskly. Pearl looks like she needs you more than I do. I'll go upstairs and make sure those 2 hooligans don't bring the house down around our ears. I curl my hands around the warm cup. Comfort comes in many guises in these times, I've discovered, and I will turn none of them down. She's right, I say. I did want to talk to you. That's why I'm here. He leans back in his big leather chair. What's on your mind? I don't know what to do with myself after I graduate, I say. You know I plan to become a teacher, but now I'm second-guessing myself. War fever will do that. He takes a sip of tea and contemplates the box of cigarettes before taking one out and waving it under his nose. Teaching is necessary, Pearl. It just doesn't feel like enough. Dan is building ships. Toby will be on one soon enough. George works at the fire station part-time. Grace and Thelma are kids, but even Thelma has her Woolworth job to pay for her dance lessons. I'm 20, old enough to do a proper war job or replace a man going off to fight, rather than standing passively in front of a classroom while other people make sacrifices. That depends on how you think about it, he says. You've spent time and money getting a good education. You'll make an excellent teacher. Education shouldn't be neglected because the country is at war. Those children, Teddy and Grace and all the rest, they'll be the ones to pick up the pieces after the current generation breaks everything. I don't know. At least one of Uncle's businesses is converting to war work. Plus he has a factory in New Jersey that makes uniforms for the Army. Aunt will no doubt find a charity, or organize one herself to help the war effort. While Mama made me promise I'd graduate, same as George, I have no intention of quitting now, not after all this effort. It's what comes next that's hazy. Can I come back and talk to you again? Of course. As I finish my tea, there is a great crashing upstairs. Then footsteps pound down the steps. I rise. I'll take her home before they break something. Don't go, he says, unless you need to. Anything they break can be replaced. Stay for a while and talk to me about anything other than the war.